Chemically in the brain, what causes depression?
Oh boy, there are chemicals in the brain called neurotransmitters. Prozac is what they call an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And what it does is it allows the brain to utilize the serotonin that it has more efficiently. So serotonin is one of the neurotransmitters that are associated with depression.
All right. What are some signs that someone is depressed?
Well, I mean, there's the typical signs that you hear about: fatigue, loss of appetite, change in activity level, usually less active, change in weight. Some people gain weight because they eat more, they're emotional eaters. Some people lose weight because they're non-emotional eaters. There's also, if I said fatigue or not, there's the change in fatigue, change in libido, usually a decrease in libido or sex drive. With adolescence, one of the things that makes adolescence depression different than adult depression is irritability. Kids tend to manifest their depression in terms of being irritable, cranky, short-tempered. There's withdrawing, tend to withdraw themselves from social situations that they normally would like to do. Loss of interest in things that they usually like to do, whether it's hobbies or activities, sports, whatever. Obviously, there's a risk for suicidal tendencies, actually carrying out a suicidal thought, or the increase in suicidal thought or ideation. Those are kind of like the hallmarks.
All right. Why do you think teenage girls are more likely to be depressed than teenage boys?
They are?
Yeah, they're twice as likely to show depression.
To show depression. I don't know if girls are more likely to be depressed than boys. I think girls are more likely to show it in a more clinical syndrome. I think girls are, this is my opinion, I think girls are more likely to seek out help. They'll talk to their friends, their friends will notice that they're feeling down or withdrawing or whatever, and then their friends will kind of rally around them and maybe help them or get them help. I think boys are more of, I'm a guy, I can handle it, shut up, get out of my face, I'm going to fight type thing. I think boys also tend to rely more on substance abuse as a form of self-medication than girls do. So although it may seem that girls suffer from depression more, I think it's that they're being identified more because of the way it's manifested as opposed to boys.
All right. Does depression ever really go away on its own?
Oh boy. Never say never. It obviously it depends on the severity. It depends, when you say go away on its own, you're talking about they don't seek any help?
They don't have feelings of depression anymore.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think is the best, most effective way to treat depression?
I can't give you a straight answer. I'm going to give you a psychology answer. All of it depends on severity. Obviously, if they're having suicidal ideation, or they're acting, they're actively suicidal, hospitalization, medication. If it's early stages of depression, the withdrawal, the blues, that kind of thing, then I think talk therapy in and of itself. In terms of talk therapy, I believe what's been found to be most effective is cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the most effective forms of therapy for mood disorders, particularly depression. And then obviously if it's between the two extremes, then medication and talk therapy.
All right. Do you think a large majority of Glenbardy seniors are or have been affected by depression?
A large majority? Geez, it's really hard to tell. I think in some ways it's more evident than it is, but I think in other ways people are quick to say depression, and not say, you know what, you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or you've had a couple of bad days in a row and it kind of sucks, you know, you kind of get kind of blue, but you pull out of it, you know. So I think sometimes what's deemed as clinical depression is overused, and so everything becomes depression as opposed to this is clinical and this is just I've had a lousy week.
Yeah. All right. Do you think students who have parents who either are or have been depressed are more prone to depression?
Oh, that's a good question. I think statistically they are, but I also think they may be in an advantage that if their parents have suffered from depression and have been treated for it, they'll see the signs of it sooner, and they'll be more likely to get help for their son or daughter or family member sooner than kind of, you know, stumbling upon help or whatever.
Okay. Why do you think depression tends to lead to alcohol or drug addiction?
Oh, God. Well, alcohol is very interesting because alcohol is a depressant, and so you're taking a depressant to treat your depression, which doesn't make sense. But I think oftentimes what happens is it's an altered state of consciousness. In other words, it's different than what I'm experiencing. So I'm experiencing this lousy feeling. Usually people who use alcohol in the beginning have that sense of euphoria, you know, that I love everyone and I'm the life of the party and all that. So I think that they're chasing that first high, you know, first couple of highs, and so they fall back on that. It's also readily accessible. It's easy to get your hands on alcohol. The other drugs like cocaine and, you know, meth, that, you know, the stimulants, obviously that's the opposite of depression. The downside of it is with cocaine, you reach that point where you have to get high in order to avoid the very deep blues, the opposite of the cocaine. So then they kind of get hooked into the cocaine or meth use to avoid the deep depression as a result of the withdrawal. So it's kind of a vicious circle.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think natural or chemical antidepressants are more effective for treating depression? Natural antidepressants being things that are just natural supplements.
Like St. John Wort?
Yeah, exactly. Personally, I'd rather go with the pharmaceutical because the potency is going to be consistent, the purity is going to be consistent, and you're being supervised by a psychiatrist that can monitor the dosage and how you respond to it. With that said, I mean, I know the vitamins like St. John and Wort, that, you know, reputable companies, they make sure that their dosage is the same and all that. But you're starting to kind of play with the dosage, and that, I think, is the downside of it. Yeah.
And so it's not a matter of natural is better than pharmaceutical. I guess it's the method in which it's delivered, to me, would be the criteria. I know in Europe they use St. John Wort. It's approved by, you know, in Europe to be used, and they say it's effective, and so great. But I think it still needs to be supervised by a professional that knows how to dispense the correct dosage and number of tablets a day and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What advice would you give to any depressed students who may not be receiving or looking for any help?
Not receiving and not looking are two very different things. Not receiving help, I guess the best thing would be obviously to seek professional help. See a teacher, see your school counselor, an adult, maybe it'd be great, your parent or older brother or sibling, you know, to reach out for help. And they, if you're not able to or you don't feel capable or whatever, they can help you get the help that you need. The not wanting help, I think part of it stems from they feel like part of the depression is it's not going to get any better no matter what I do, you know, and that if they have someone that can encourage them, give them the support to help build them up to get help. I would caution the best friend being the therapist, because they're not trained for that. They're not, and although they want to help, and that's great, but there comes a point where, okay, I've gotten you to the professional, now they take over because that's their job, that's what they're trained to do. So I just get help. It does get better. It's temporary, it's chemical, there's nothing that they've done or haven't done. But with the correct medication and the correct treatment, their life can improve. The quality of life can improve.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And again, sorry about this earlier today.
Oh, it's totally fine. This is probably better. You can turn it off.